fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
The Linna tree had always thrummed beneath my fingertips, a deep, ancient pulse that matched the rhythm of my own heart. I first discovered its hollowed trunk at 8, its bark scarred with runes that glowed faintly in moonlight, its branches a vaulted cathedral of amber that filtered the sun into honeyed shafts. I remember the way the light fell through the needles, turning each droplet of dew into a tiny prism, and how the scent of pine sap rose like incense whenever the wind brushed through the needles. The tree was more than wood, it was a living memory, a keeper of stories whispered by the wind and recorded in the grain of its bark. By 23, the Linna had become my secret sanctuary, a place where loneliness could be traded for the warm thrum of bark and the sharp, resinous scent of pine sap that rose like incense whenever the wind brushed through the needles. I would climb its lower limbs after the day's chores, settle on a sturdy branch, and let the world fall away. The forest around me sang in rustling leaves, in the distant call of a night bird, in the soft patter of rain on moss. In those moments, I felt both infinitesimally small and profoundly connected to something older than any kingdom. One rain-soaked twilight, the air tasted of wet earth and decaying leaves, pressing against my chest and making my heart ache with a strange, anticipatory longing. The sky was a bruised violet, and the first drops fell like cold pearls, splattering the canopy and turning the forest floor into a slick of dark mud. I was perched on a low branch, rereading a passage about a queen yielding to her warrior in a storm, when a voice cut through the drizzle. "You're stealing all the light." The voice was low, smoky, and it brushed my spine like a lover's breath. I turned, heart hammering, and saw her standing at the base of the tree. She wore a leather coat that hugged the curve of her shoulders, the scent of wood smoke and something wild clinging to her skin. Her hair, dark as midnight rain, fell in tangled strands that caught the droplets and glistened like obsidian beads. Seraphina, the name rolled on my tongue like a promise. She stepped forward and the mud squelched beneath her boots, each step sending a shiver up my thighs. When she reached out, her fingers were warm, tinged with the faint heat of a hearth, and they brushed the scarred bark as if greeting an old friend. "You've been hiding here too long," she murmured, her breath warm against my cheek. The words were a caress, a challenge, a promise. I felt a sudden, fierce heat bloom in my chest, a fire that had nothing to do with the storm. My hand rose of its own accord, tracing the curve of her jaw, feeling the soft stubble there, the faint tremor of her pulse beneath her skin. The rain fell harder, drumming a frantic rhythm on the leaves, but inside me, the world narrowed to the space between us. "Lyra," she whispered, her voice a silk-threaded rope pulling me deeper into the night, "the Linna knows our secrets. It will not let us be alone." A low growl rumbled from the tree's core, and the bark split, revealing a hollow that pulsed with amber light. From within, a scent rose, sweet pine, wet earth, and a hint of something intoxicatingly metallic, like blood. The tree seemed to breathe, exhaling a breath that wrapped around us, binding us in its ancient magic. I pressed my forehead against hers, feeling the heat of her skin mingle with the chill of the rain. "Then let it hear us," I said, my voice hoarse with desire. "Let it hear the way I want you." She smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of her lips that revealed a flash of ivory teeth. "You have always wanted me, Lyra. You just never dared to ask." The words ignited a fire that surged through my veins, making my skin tingle, my breath shallow. I leaned in, our lips meeting in a kiss that tasted of rain, pine sap, and the raw, electric promise of something forbidden. The Linna tree shivered, its bark splintering as a raw scream ripped from my throat, but I did not pull away. Instead, I let the pain and pleasure fuse, the ice-sharp sting of the bark against my skin mingling with the heat of her mouth. In that moment, the forest fell away. There was only the thrum of the tree, the pulse of my heart, and the fierce, unyielding tide of longing that surged between us. The world would call it a curse, a danger, a legend. But in the hollow of the Linna, under the storm's relentless kiss, we were simply two women, bound by fire, ice, and a love that refused to be silenced.